What's up, Wise Flyers? David here. So you want to get a credit limit increase. How is it going to affect your score positively or negatively? How much should you ask for? There are certain things you need to know before getting a credit limit increase. So in this video, I'm going to go over the 5 things you need to know to get a credit limit increase. And if you're serious about getting a credit limit increase, make sure you pay attention to these 5 things. First, know the reason why you want to get a credit limit increase. There's a clear good reason and a clear bad reason why you should get a credit limit increase. Credit limit increases can actually boost your credit score, and it'll look good to lenders if you're going for a car loan, mortgage, big purchases like that. It could actually help you. Or it could actually make things look worse and you could get into more trouble. So let's break this down. Basically, the way a credit limit increase works is if you already have a credit line with a bank, with a credit card, and you want to increase that limit, you're gonna have to ask for that extra credit line. So to make things more simple, let's say you have a friend and you go to that friend and you say, hey, can I borrow $1,000? Usually a friend is gonna ask, why do you want an extra $1,000? If your response is, well, I already owe Jim $500 and I owe Mike $200, then your friend will say, well, why haven't you paid Mike and Jim yet? Why are you asking for more money when you should just pay Mike and Jim back their money? Then your friend will say, well, if I give you this money, are you gonna give it back to me? Your response may be yes, but they may look more into your history. So same scenario works with the banks. The banks are gonna offer you money. They wanna make sure that they're gonna get that money back. It could be a big risk on their part if you have a history of not paying off other banks and other credit cards, which is shown on your credit report. So if you already have debt and the reason you want to get a credit limit increase is to incur more debt and spend more money that you don't have, then it's probably not a good idea to get a credit limit increase. Ideally, in the whole credit card game, you want to pay all your bills in full every single month. Otherwise, you could get into a lot of trouble, and it won't only affect you in the short term, but long term as well. If you're trying to go for a mortgage, car loan, anything like that, your interest rates are going to be really high. Also, all that interest you're going to be paying to the credit card companies is money taken away from retirement, investment opportunities, so it's really going to impact you later on in life to not pay off your bills in full every single month. And I get it, it's hard. Sometimes things happen, there could be medical bills, there could be car accidents, stuff like that. If that's the case, then a credit limit increase may not be for you. Because getting a credit limit increase could dramatically increase your credit score. It could bring down your utilization, which will in turn raise your credit score. Now, if you don't have any debt and you're looking for a credit limit increase, a reason why here is to raise your credit score. So for the most part, a higher credit limit with low utilization, ideally no utilization, so you're pretty much paying your bills in full every single month, then that'll raise your credit score as well. For me personally, a higher credit limit equals free travel. To break it down, higher credit limit means I get a higher credit score. A higher credit score means I have a higher chance of approval for travel credit cards, and travel credit cards give me points and miles. At the time of filming this video, I've opened 51 credit cards, which has yielded millions of miles and points, which I've been able to use to take my family all over the world. So we've been to Morocco, we've been to Hawaii, Bali, Australia, and I've done this all with miles and points. My 6-year-old daughter has been to over 15 countries, and she's experienced first class seats, business class seats, all thanks to miles and points from credit cards. The most important thing for me though is to make sure I pay every single credit card in full every single month. I don't have 51 credit cards open. I have only 14 credit cards that are open at the moment. And if we take a brief look at my TransUnion, you'll see that I have no other debt. I don't have a mortgage. I don't have a car loan. I'm a big believer in Dave Ramsey that we shouldn't have any debt. Although the irony here is that I love credit cards and Dave Ramsey always talks about never get any credit cards. But if you use them right, they could actually benefit you. So I'm curious, what is your reason why for a credit limit increase? Let me know down in the comments below. Next thing you need to know is how will a credit limit increase affect your credit score? So your score could go down from a credit limit increase, it could go up. Let me give you the reasons why these things will happen. For the most part, getting a credit limit increase could boost your credit score, assuming you don't get into more debt with that extra credit. The way it can negatively impact your credit score is depending on which bank you're deciding to get a credit limit increase from. They could do a hard pull on your account or a credit increase. So every credit inquiry you get, the same way as if you were to get a new credit card, it'll ding your credit score 2 to 5 points. So this means that the issuer is going to look into your credit report and they're going to, make sure everything's okay. And this process causes a credit inquiry to show up on your credit report, and it'll ding your score 2 to 5 points just for the first 12 months. But then after the 12 months, your score will go back up, so that's temporary. And then 24 months later, the hard inquiry will be completely removed from your account, from your report. Getting a credit limit increase won't affect your history. So the benefit of getting a credit limit increase versus opening a new credit card is that your history won't be affected. So if you have a certain card that you've had open for 5 years, you get a 10,000 credit limit increase on that, then you're getting the same benefits as having a new credit card, and you don't have to get a hard inquiry, and you don't have to mess up your credit history. Everything stays good. Now, besides the most important factor that determines your credit score, which is payment history, making sure you're paying everything in full, the next is going to be your credit utilization, which accounts for 30% of your credit score. So this is the part that's really going to improve your credit score. So let's keep numbers simple. So let's say you have a credit card with a $10,000 credit limit on it. You use 3,000 of it, that's 30%. So usually people say that you want to keep your utilization at 30% or lower. I disagree with that. Just keep it at 0%. If you have credit card debt, you want to knock that out as soon as possible. And if you are paying interest on that credit card debt, ideally you want to put it on a 0% card and pay it off before that 0% introductory APR is done. Now back to that example, if you get an additional $10,000 credit limit increase to your current 10,000 credit limit, then your credit limit is going to be 20,000, which will bring your utilization down to 15% instead of 30%. This will dramatically increase your credit score. Now, it's not just card by card basis, it's your overall credit limit. So if you're gonna get $20,000 on one card, and let's say you have another card that has $10,000 credit limit and a few others, and you could rack it up to $50,000 in credit limit, that $3,000 balance is gonna become insignificant and won't affect your credit utilization rate as much. So that's the main strategy when it comes to getting a credit limit increase. Knock down that utilization and your credit score goes up. And the next thing you need to know is that the credit issuer will most likely look into your credit report. So every bank is different, and it really depends on whether or not they're going to look into your credit report and do a credit pull. I'll give more information on that later on in the video. But assuming that they do look into your credit report, they're going to see your history of on-time payments. They're going to see if you are an eligible candidate to give more money to. So remember that example I gave you earlier on where, if you're trying to borrow money from a friend. Now let's just say your friend says, all right, let me see if I'm gonna give you $1,000. And then they ask all the other friends that you borrowed money from, and they say, yeah, I gave him money, but he didn't really pay me on time. It took him an extra 2 weeks for him to pay me, and when he did pay me, he didn't pay me the full amount and said that he'll do it the next month. Your friend that you want to borrow $1,000 for is going to find out all that information of your credit, how much you've paid your friends and how often. And if it sounds kind of shady, like he thinks that you're not going to pay him back in time or pay him back at all, then most likely he's not going to give you money to borrow. And the same goes for the banks. Once they look into your credit report and see that if your payments have been late or not completely in full, or if you have a credit card that's completely maxed out and you're not really paying it off, the credit issuer may say, you know what, this guy is a risk or this girl is a risk, and we don't want to lend them money because we may not get it back. Next thing you're going to want to know are what are the rules for each credit issuer in terms of giving a certain amount of credit, how often you could get it, do they do a hard pull or not? So depending on the bank or credit issuer, they're going to have different rules for each one. There's no one rule for all. It's really going to depend on what bank you want to get more money from for your credit limit. Chase and Amex seem to be more generous when it comes to giving credit limit increases. Capital One could be a little stingy, Barclays could be a little stingy, but if you want to learn the exact rules and for each bank and how much you could ask for, how often, I recommend clicking this link over here, and it'll give you the rundown of the credit limit increase rules for the major bank issuers. So you could click that link now, and I'll see you in the next video.